In the previous video, we looked at how we can get data coming into the application. In this video, we're going to start navigating through our application. So we'll start by creating a new interface controller with an image on it. Then, we'll use a segue to navigate from the table row across to this new interface. And we'll start to pass data across using a context. And finally, we'll lazy load the image onto the WK interface image view. In the previous video, we started to get data from core data passed to us from the iOS application. Now we want to make use of some of this data, so we can actually start putting some imagery within our application in a different controller. So let's create a new controller within our interface storyboard. So I'll open up the object library, and then I'll scroll to the top and drag a new interface controller onto the storyboard. In here, I'm just going to put an image on there. Let's hide this object library, and I'll resize the image to be the same size as the interface controller. And I'll set the content mode to scale aspect fit. And then to create navigation within it, I'll drag from the Dream Table Row controller across to this new interface controller. Then I'll select this segue, and I'll name this Image. So, let's create a new file within the Dreamseeker Watch extension, and I'll call this Dream Image Controller. First of all, let's import WatchKit. Quickly hide this utility panel to give us a bit more space. Then I'll create a new class called Dream Image Controller, and I'll set this as a WC Interface Controller. I'll programmatically create an IB outlet, which will be an IB outlet var image view. And this will be a type of WK interface image, ! And now we'll go back to the interface storyboard and we'll set our new controller to be a subclass of the Dream Image Controller. Let's open up our assistant editor, and then I can drag across my image view to the new variable we created, and it creates a connection. Let's go to the interface controller, go back to the standard editor, and I'll create a new method, which will be context for segue with identifier. And this context for segue with identifier is using a row index in a table. So I'll put if let dream equals fetch results controller dot sections 0 dot objects row index as dream, where the segue identifier is equal to image. Then I'll return the dream image link. Otherwise, I'll return nil. Let's quickly correct this and add in the additional equal sign. And then, in order to accept this, we'll go into the Dream Image Controller, and we'll make use of the awake with context. And we'll put super.awake with context and pass in the context. Then, underneath here, we'll check to see whether the context is a string by if let URL equals context as string. Now I want to lazy load my image in so that I'm not blocking my main queue. So I'm going to create a new extension on WK interface image directly within this file. So I'll put extension WK interface image, and I'll create a new method, which will be func set image with URL, and we'll pass in the URL as a string. And we'll have this returning a WK interface image. Then within here, we'll create a new task, which will be let task equals nsurl session.shared session.data task with URL. We'll pass across an NSURL as a string. Then we'll put data response error. And then if the data is not equal to nil, and the error is equal to nil, then we'll set our image as a UI image using the data. So in order to get onto the main queue, we'll put dispatch async, dispatch get main queue. And within this block, we'll put self.setImage image. I'll quickly unwrap this, and at the end of this, I'll put task.resume, and then I'll return self. So, let's go back up, and within this let binding, I'll put imageview.setImage with URL, and pass in the URL. Now, let's build and run, and when I click on my top cell, as you can see, it now loads the image. And that's it. We're now lazy loading imagery and navigating through our application. In the next video, let's have a look at how we can implement a complication.